Are we recording?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Astrospeak for December of 2023. First of all, I want to announce that Anthony Pico has decided to step away from his co-hosting duties in Astrospeak. So for now, I'm going to assist Michaela Villiers-Kendall, who is our other co-host, and we will determine how we're going to proceed. So today we're joined, Michaela and I are joined by Nia Fyler. Hi, Nia.
Hello, everyone.
Jordyn Smith.
Hello.
Hey, Jordyn. Lynn Ewing.
Hey.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
And Ryan Evans.
Bonjour.
So today being almost solstice, we thought we would start with the solstice chart. And this is a picture that we had just, well, there's a lot going on in the astrological world. Part of our, what's happening is that our dear friend of EA Zoom meetings, Erin Sullivan, passed this about a week ago. And she has now transitioned into spirit and is, I'm sure here to guide us all, in the meantime, as we traverse the future. But this picture on the right is one that she shared in a video that she recorded about called Memento Mori, the Day of Death. And so we thought it was an interesting picture that the 48 pictures of the sun taken for a year from the same place show that the sun makes an infinity symbol as it goes around the year. So anyway, this is the chart for the solstice, which will be later today. And you can see that down here that the declination is, as far south as it can go, which corresponds to this point down here at the bottom of the infinity. So Michaela, would you like to take it away?
Well, I mean, thinking about Erin's chart, and you're going to show that in just a second. That's Pallas, is it? Pallas Athena there, is it? The asteroid on the ascendant?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that's, I think her, perhaps we could show her chart actually.
Okay, so first of all, this chart is for Greenwich, England. So it's kind of a chart for everyone for the solstice. And the other thing is up here in the left-hand corner, Jupiter will station direct on the 30th of December, and then Mercury will station direct. They're both retrograde right now. Mercury will station direct on January 1st. So do you have any, does anybody have any comments about the solstice chart before we move on to talk about Erin?
Nope.
Yeah, I've got something to say. Oh, yeah.
Okay, please.
The thing that I really love about this chart, well, first, hi, everybody. The first thing I love about this chart is that beautiful Earth trine between the sun and the moon. And with that moon in Taurus, close to Jupiter, there we're kind of seeing a year-long echo of the beauty that's possible with this impending Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. I know we may talk about it later, but I think it's a really pivotal time in the evolution of consciousness collectively right now that we have something in this crazy world that might give us some hope. And I am not the astrologer to get excessively predictive about the future for good or ill. And so I'm a bit reluctant to be like, oh, Jupiter, Uranus at the end of April is going to save us. However, when I see that the sun and moon and an earth trine this year for all of us, my hope is, my projection, because that's all astrology is, right? My projection onto these archetypes is that we collectively find some stability, find some grounding, reconnect with our roots, reconnect with the earth, and in that, what really matters. There's so much, and I'm going to stop myself, but I could talk at length about the problems of the world and history and everything. I think we all are pretty aware of that. And so I think that inside of each of us, we're looking for that next little ray of hope to give our life some meaning, that next little breakthrough, and maybe not little breakthrough, because we're talking Jupiter, Uranus, potential for big breakthrough. Wow, what could it be? So rather than saying like, oh, well, all it takes is, a breakthrough in nuclear fusion. Oh, all it takes is all of those free energy devices to actually be let out of their cages and find their way to the marketplace. It'd be really nice to say, oh, all we have to do is have this little box for $30 and flick a switch, and we have unlimited energy to maybe solve a lot of the problems of the world. Because energy is a source of a lot of the
It's a big problem, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. And we were actually talking about that prior to recording here. So I'm just going to plant the seed. Plant the seed that there's incredible potential here within each of our individual lives this year. And it comes down to the brass tacks, the keeping it simple, looking at our foundational stuff, seeing what works and removing all the superfluous, focusing on our connection with nature, our connection with each other, our connection with those really simple, basic, very earth-based principles of what works and what doesn't. No hyper emotionality, no, oh my God, I'm going to lose my stock is going to go down 40 points or whatever, but just what works, what's sustainable. My hope is that there's a great revolution in that. And so I'm just going to plant that little seed and.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I mean, go along with you on that. There's also, I think, the possibility that when Jupiter conjuncts Uranus, we might have even more chaos than we already have. Because that could be the negative part about it. I'm hoping we go with the positive, but there is the flip side that's possible, I think.
Sure.
Can I say something? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
Whenever I'm looking at this chart, Venus is ruling that south node. With Venus and with the south node in Libra, it's almost like sometimes it takes extremes to counteract extremes. And we have Venus sitting there with Lilith in the sign of Scorpio and opposing that Uranus and Taurus, and that Uranus is ruled by Venus. So there could be a chance for whatever extremes we come into contact with right now to teach us about the natural exchange of natural resources. So kind of speaking to what Ryan was talking about, really grounding. Oh, I'm losing my voice. Really grounding within, Gaia right now in order to heal our relationship with the earth, as social structures that are man-made are dissolving with Pluto being ruled by that Saturn and Pisces. So really looking at things from a more inclusive lens, seeing as where Saturn's placed in this chart.
Yeah, that's very good. And Venus is making that nice trine to Neptune as well from Scorpio. So, it's idealistic, but on the other hand, as you say, it's ruling Taurus. So that could really take off with the innovations that promote what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like with Lilith on a collective level, I love talking about this asteroid. It's really about like staying whole into ourselves. So on a collective level, getting back to our natural root. And when Scorpio is naturally expressed, it's going to pull in Taurus. So it's about, you know, equality within shared resources. So really, I mean, things could get worse than they already are, but there's an underlying root structure of this chart to me during this period of us kind of being in the underworld, of getting back to our natural roots, and as a society staying whole into ourselves and reclaiming our natural law, like Jupiter retrograde, you know, being ruled by this Venus as well, that's conjunct Lilith, is really reclaiming, not losing sight of who we are on a collective level. Now, obviously not everyone's going to be there, but for the ones that are, it's, you know, like holding a torch or lighting a path, you know, as people are remembering and reclaiming these, you know, Uranus, Jupiter, both retrograde in this chart, these natural principles of who we are on a collective and societal level, how we share, how we give, how we include, looking at that South Node and Libra being ruled by Venus there.
Yeah, very good. I mean, yeah, I mean, so all that's coming into it with Pluto still at the start. That's very powerful at the Enartic degree of Capricorn. So it's that really pitted against the, you know, the big powerful corporations and governments. Yeah, it's the people coming in with their opposing views of, yeah, on the side of ecology and the planet and spirituality and all that. So it's good, isn't it? I mean, and when you get the sun, as I was talking about the other day, the Sun-Pluto conjunction, when Pluto goes into Aquarius on the 21st of January, that spoke to me sort of a people power, you know, so getting on top of this bloody Capricornian megalomania sort of thing.
The only thing that bothers me a little bit about the positivity of it, and I'm really not normally this negative, is that Venus is debilitated. So she's going to be helpful, but maybe how much, you know, because she's not in a good sign for her.
Don't you think? Really, it's powerful trines and aspects she's making. Trine to Neptune is powerful.
Okay, yeah. Well, and Neptune can be, you know, unclear. So even though it's a trine, it might be a little more difficult to bring out all the positive aspects of that. And she is opposing the two planets, you know, and will be when Jupiter gets there to Uranus, but she'll be opposing two planets that she disposits. And she's not in good shape for that. So, you know, and that'll be a few days, I mean, that'll be a few days from this when Jupiter gets to Uranus, so Venus will have moved, but it just I'm not feeling as strongly like, yay, this is all great, because
it's up against it. Yeah, it's up against it with that Pluto and Capricorn, isn't it? So
well, and it's the extremes that take an extreme to counteract an extreme, you know.
Sure. So it's up against it, but it's there. It's all in coming together. The recipe.
And I like that Neptune Venus trine because it's in a disseminating trine. So that's like information that, you know, here's the thing is the information is there for us to understand what more natural values are. It's, I think what I'm hearing from you, Lynn, is are we going to use it like on a collective level?
I mean, it's
what are we going to do with that?
Anything good with it? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because there's always potentials, but what people do with the potentials is what really matters. Yeah.
Totally. I think if we look at this from a historical perspective, Jupiter-Uranus conjunctions through history, what have we had recently? The Arab Spring? 1969, am I correct?
No, the Arab Spring was later than that.
2011.
Well, 2010, but I'm going back.
No.
So I'm thinking Arab Spring, I'm thinking Man on the Moon, Summer of Love. And
so innovations.
some of these breakthroughs, some of the magic that may have come from this was precipitated by some shadow events, like, I don't know, Vietnam War, etc. And so,
then
to hearken to everything that y'all have said, on the one note, we've got, Jupiter, opportunity, luck, expansion, all good things, beneficence, and with change. So we're looking at the potential for good change or big change. But and here's the question: is there something, or has there been something in a shadow form that precipitates the need for that breakthrough? So here's a concern. Here's a concern.
As we were saying before we started, that with the oil thing, with the embargo in 73, which took place at the last Chiron return of the US chart. So that was their last Chiron return, your last Chiron return. That's when there was an oil embargo caused by the 6-day war. So the Middle East embargo, and they closed the Suez as well. So we've got the same sort of thing creeping up, where the Middle East is threatening to put an embargo on the oil, and the Suez could close as well. So we at the return, this return. So, and that's Jupiter in Taurus, which is, resources, which certainly could be oil, couldn't it? And power.
So it does make me wonder if, since we're looking at Earth, if there is an Earth-based event, or maybe Earth changes that could precipitate, oh my gosh, we need to really, put some fire under our butts and make these changes that we've known we need to make for so very long.
Right.
Have this opportunity to do this in the face of X, and that X variable is that Uranian wild card right now. And so, yes, we've got the positive. Oh yes, I'm so happy with the potential for, radical breakthrough, new energy sources, reconnecting with nature, etc. And on the other side of that is, what precipitates that? And there's the variable. And so with this astrology stuff, what I like to say is we have a co-creative potential to inject our intention into those variables, hopefully eliciting a better of all possible, results. So, so I guess, my suggestion for myself and for anybody else is to again, keep it as simple and keep it as real and keep it as practical and keep it as earthy and keep it as grounded and connected to nature as possible, all of our actions, thoughts, and intentions. And then, then the universe has got the rest up their whatever.
And also, the COP28. I mean, that's when that clash came in as well, where it was held by Middle East, Qatar, wasn't it? Held the COP28.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it very much. But and of course there was protest about, well, just a minute, these are the oil producing nations talking about getting rid of oil. What's going on here? So you've got that, that it's already coming together. Well, not coming together, it's clashing.
I think one of the very important things for me personally looking at this is the trine between the sun and the moon, setting this solstice as something with connecting the outside with the inside and worldwide. So that for me would be a really positive part of this, in the hopes that there's going to be some kind of an emotional and activity balance going on. Will it come through? I certainly hope so. I mean, it's also an Earth, as you've been talking about, which certainly seems to be topical with the energy issues that have been, discussed very recently. And getting in touch more with nature, as you've been saying. So I think that bodes well for potential, but there's always the flip shadow stuff. So
I think it's interesting, Michaela, because you were talking about like crude oil. To me, whenever I look at that, that's Neptune. Because it's the unrefined, pure. That's just the way that I've come to understand it. And
undersea, the oil we were just talking about is the oil fields under the ocean.
Yes. And
That's
so
interesting.
even in this chart with Neptune being in the 5th house, this can be,
Yeah.
you know, hey, are we going to use this for exclusionary 5th
Yeah.
house, you know, and then that's trining the Venus that is, you know, hidden motivations behind this.
Sure,
Dealing with
sure.
our values stemming from our beliefs, Jupiter and Taurus, you know, or are we going to go to the polarity of this and use this, liberate from these kind of dynamics and do it in a socially relevant way that benefits the collective, the 11th house. So I just, whenever you were talking about that, I kept like, oh, that Neptune right there.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that later when we see that the Chiron Pluto charts, because that was all about, you know, the oil fields that are now, we're getting all of this to do with oil come up and with the ecology as well. So it's like it's all brewing and it's all the same sort of things. It's all resources and oil being major, major component of that.
So shall
Very
we
good.
shall we move on?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We know we're in for a saga here, aren't we?
Yeah.
We know that. But interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so we thought we would honor briefly our good friend Erin, who, as I said, passed on December 12th. So this first chart is the actual time of her passing, according to Michael Bartlett, who is also in Santa Fe, where Erin lived. And so what I see right off the bat is that Jupiter is right here at the very top of the chart, sending her on a journey, and opposite to Venus.
Yeah.
And in her chart, which we'll take a look at in a bit, has a Jupiter, Venus Jupiter conjunction in Sagittarius. So you want to, Michaela, did you want to talk a little bit about this chart, or shall we just move on to?
If you want to just talk a bit more about it, does anyone want to say something?
It's interesting.
It's interesting, obviously. Yeah, sorry,
go ahead.
We're just she was born in 1947, which is the same as the period we're talking about with Israel, the birth of Israel. So
Right.
she's picking up a lot of those aspects and transits. Interesting. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, on the next chart where it shows the progression, Uranus was transiting her progressed north node.
Wow. Right.
Right. I can share my screen too. I have some charts
Oh, brilliant.
of synastry of her death and her natal chart, progressed, solar return, all kinds.
Great photo.
Okay, so here's the trifecta with her her natal chart, her progressions, and the transits at the time of her transition.
Right. Also, it was opposing karma. So on her north node, progressed north node, and opposing karma.
Mm-hmm. A lot going on.
So yeah, she was born I think 3 days before an eclipse. Her nodes are right here.
Oh yeah.
And Chiron had progressed to a conjunction of her south node.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other thing? I think, let's see. Oh, and then she had this whole Leo stellium in her 9th house. And what did she call it? She called it her, I had written it down because I thought it was her something god. something Christian God or something like that.
Yeah, because it was squared her nodes.
Yeah, and
Powerful conjunction there with Mars as well in the middle. Wow. And also that square to, you know, her son, isn't it? And to Chiron as well. So as we were saying, that's the Chiron Pluto square there mixed with everything else, Mars, Saturn, the sun. Wow. No wonder she was so deeply into, you know, psychology and spirituality and evolutionary astrology, didn't she? She got into that too because I think she did some work with Jeff Wolf Green, didn't she? On
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were friends from
yeah.
the beginning. Let's see. Do you want me to read a little bit from her website
Brilliant.
about who she was? Okay.
Oh,
Erin
his
Sullivan has
Jupiter-
been a
oh,
consultant
sorry.
astrologer, author, and teacher since the late 1960s. Erin has lectured worldwide and led astrology workshops and symposia on many aspects of human development using mythology, psychology, and the rich language of astrology. Her sometimes radical and outspoken nature on issues of ethics, honesty, human rights, women's rightful empowerment, ecology, and the healing of and preservation of our planet, Gaia, has been a positive effect on her clients and friends. Erin's fresh, non-elitist approach to her vocation brings the profession of psychological and practical astrology and the psyche, practical astrology into contemporary times and to its rightful position as something that one does for a living, as well as something one considers as a necessary adjunct to their life tools.
Great.
Yeah, and there's more, but
I was gonna say Jeff's his Jupiter is conjunct her Chiron to the degree.
yeah, they were born pretty close to each other, weren't they?
Yeah, both 1947. He was born in 47.
Yeah.
In December though.
Right. Yeah. So they're a month apart. Yeah. And
But they
were,
have the same Pluto placement, and then you know they're the same rising sign. So very very different but very similar.
yeah. Yeah. They
Both have a Uranus in the 8th and Gemini. So she's probably someone who doesn't mince words, very much like how he was, you know. So
but it's so powerful, wonderful that she used all that power so constructively. And, you know, that Moon Neptune conjunction in Libra with compassion as well and with equilibrium is great. I mean, she put it to such good use.
Oh, she called that Mars, Saturn, Pluto in the 9th, her Old Testament God.
Ah, yeah. Perfect.
Well, yeah, and it squared her nodes, and then she died while Uranus was transiting that node. So that kind of shows the progression of her message and her goal and role in life, you know, is going to continue in a positive direction.
Exactly. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a lot of her books, and she's got this very good one on retrograde planets too.
Yeah, that's my
Going
favorite.
to continue to enlighten.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think it says some quite good things about. What was it? I think she talks about Jupiter retrograde as there's something here she says about power and God, if I can find it. Oh yeah, what you just said, powerful Old Testament God complex about Jupiter retrograde in yeah, exactly, in Earth. So that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, because there is a lot of sort of the biblical sort of Zionist evangelical Christian sort of Armageddon sort of thing coming out, which is yeah, I mean, for goodness sakes, it's pretty daunting to think a lot of politicians are sort of siding with that. I mean, you know, ironic to think that the politicians of the USA, at least some of them, could be pushing for Armageddon when, and we were worried about Russia and China. I mean,
Right.
God, who knew?
Well, I find it interesting that she waited to pass until just after the new moon in Sagittarius.
Yes.
I think that was exact.
Yeah.
I think it was
Oh, really?
exact because she was talking about being born on the balsamic moon and
Mhm.
really not knowing who she was until the new moon phase in her life, and and I think that being born under a new moon in Sag, is
Mm-hmm.
being a Jupiterian sign and having Jupiter culminating on her midheaven, opposed by Venus in the fourth
Oh,
in
wow.
Scorpio.
Mm.
And that particular opposition of Jupiter and Venus was something that she talked about in regards to the moment of death
Oh,
as
okay.
something calm and beautiful,
Right. Yeah.
green.
Very
Yeah.
in touch with all of that. Mm.
And I found it beautiful that, can I share my screen a minute?
Yes, yeah.
So,
Sure. Let's.
I need a co-host.
Oh,
Yeah.
Let's see.
I need you to make me a co-host.
Yeah, I need to. I need to find it. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. One thing, I need new glasses and Zoom keeps moving stuff, so I found it. And okay. There you go.
So she talked about death and why death charts were important for her. Is it this one? Is it this one? I'm not sure. I picked up something she was saying about death charts, but I wanted to share with you, all of you, really a few things that happened moment of death. So the first thing was that there was this opposition between Venus and Jupiter that she talked about. I mean, Jupiter was culminating in the sky, but Erin talked about as in regards to the moment of death for people, that there was something beautiful and calm and spiritual and freeing when Venus and Jupiter were in opposition, and especially when one was on one's ascendant, rising in the east. Indeed, it was Venus in Scorpio, signifying very simply that an important lady has
Yeah.
passed,
Yeah.
that a mystic, a beautiful mystic, is rising in the eastern sky up to the heavens, in a sense, and so that was the first thing. The second is that Uranus is on her north node.
Sure.
There's something about the 23rd degree. We can see the 23rd degree in the nodes at the time of death. We can see the 23rd degree at the time of birth. We could see the moon in the 23rd degree exactly sextiling and trining the nodes at time of death.
Amazing.
Exactly quincunxing the natal nodes. Chironic aspect.
And Saturn not far off, a degree away from 23.
And Hygeia also at 23.
And Igea at 23, thank you.
Oh.
And opposing that threesome in our midheaven with Saturn in the 22nd degree. And having Saturn, transiting Saturn, come up to her IC, to the fourth house that Erin considered as one of the houses appropriating and as signifying life. The water houses in general talked about transitioning and talked about detransitioning, in her words. and especially the 4th and the 8th houses. Saturn coming up to the 4th house is an old signifier of death in traditional astrology. The death of the mother, in a sense. So
Wonderful.
yeah, we can see how this new moon in Sagittarius with Mars is trining the Saturn, Mars, Pluto
Right.
on the midheaven in a 9th,
Ah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
But it was a kind of I went a bit deeper into the rabbit's hole,
Great.
and I looked at the progressed and the time of death, and I looked at the return, and I looked at the directed time of and the time of death. So let's look at them a minute. So on the inner wheel, we have the time of death. On the outer wheel, we have the secondary progressions for Erin Sullivan on time of death.
Mm.
And we can see that Pluto on the ascendant, in a sense.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh.
We can see Jupiter on that new moon.
Wonderful. Mhm.
Yeah. And again, Jupiter on the midheaven.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Um,
Jupiter is a journey, and I see it a lot in death charts, transition charts,
A lot.
and or Mercury.
Yeah, and Mercury's right there on the descent into opposing Pluto.
mhm.
Um,
So this is very powerful for her transition, as you were saying. On the other side now, obviously, she's taking
Not-
more power on the other side than she was having here. So just when we need it too.
Exactly.
We need all hands to wheel the other side, just like you were saying, Sue.
Yeah, we just
Look
have to
at
get
this.
used to her being on the other side, guiding us in this way.
Just know that she is.
I
but-
hear as clearly, like
Yeah.
I spent, I don't know, I'm much more emotional than I'm supposed to because I didn't know her that well, but it gets to me, so I spent a lot of time with her videos, and I can just here, look at this. Inside, we have the solar arc, directed solar arc for the time of death. And on the outside, we have the time of death. And the new moon in Sag is exactly on the directed
Beautiful.
solar arc moon.
Beautiful. I mean, she picked it well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good work. Too. That's great. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, she loves that. She'd love you finding that.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
I also have an interest in death charts and delved into the matter.
Yeah,
Yes.
So
same
yeah.
here. And I think, I mean, that I was really amazed to watch that Memento Mori again. I had seen it, when it was first recorded, and I was, blown away. But I mean, she's just a master at telling the story of everything.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
I'm going to do is I'll put a link to that particular video in the description of this video. And then I also made a playlist of her, I think 20 some videos that she's done for EA Zoom. And
Yeah, fantastic.
there are a lot of them. So I'll add that.
Wonderful. And that's fantastic.
So where would you like to go from here?
Well, what have we got next on the agenda? I suppose my
Okay, let's
grab the bull by the horn.
well, let's see. We've got how about, I think, did you want to talk about Steve?
Well, might as well, as we're talking about Erin, that his journey, his journey to crossing over was about the same side as she went on the 12th of December. That's when he had a fall, and he had bad knees, as I was telling you before, and you can see him as a
But just a little bit of background. We're talking about Michaela's partner.
partner. He had a fall. His knees have been very bad for years, and he's had 2 operations, and he had a very bad, they went completely, and you can see that his ascendant is Capricorn. So it never surprised me that he, had a problem with his knees. I remember Noel Teal talking about that. He had Capricorn ascendant, and years ago I was at a seminar of his, and he was talking about it being to do with the Capricorn sort of well, I wouldn't say well, yeah, he was talking about having humility. So it's like you get problems in your knees because there is and he admitted, Noel Till, that he wasn't very he didn't have a lot of humility. He had a lot. No, it's great. But Steve did suffer from that. He admitted he had suffered from that in the past. And so it's as though unconsciously, it's a way of, Noel Till said, bringing you to your knees. It's terrible that I never thought it would get as bad as this, but it was also, it's as though part of the death journey that you were talking about. It's as though the knees, that whole thing is like the final surrender. And it did seem like a surrender because it went on for a week then, and there were floods that made it impossible for him to get help. And then he seemed to rally, and then he went down. But finally, he died on last night on the solstice. And I decided to talk about, because obviously we were talking about Erin, and we were talking about death, and Chiron Pluto sort of figures very, very much. His Chiron was, as you can see, is at 11 degrees Capricorn. So he had obviously Chiron conjunct his ascendant. My sun is 11 degrees Libra, so his Chiron squared my sun in Libra, and obviously this retrograde Mercury transit that started on the 12th and was figured in Erin's chart. That was figured in my chart too, because it was square. And so I ended up fighting to try to pull this back, but it just didn't. And he ended up going to a coma last night, and that's when he died. So, but you all were great about it. You were saying that there is a timing to everything, and that's the fabulous thing about astrology. It shows you that there is a timing, and that's such a consolation, because as we were saying, you do start getting guilty. You go through the guilt trip on it and say, what did I do wrong? And I was. And I had a very bad night last night, obviously, coming back from that. And what it was like, I did a visualization though, and what came to me is that it was like a crucifixion, and it felt like I was being crucified. And that brought Chiron to mind, because Chiron Chiron, actually, the centaur, is the wounded healer, and really a forerunner of the Christ figure. And so he prostrated himself on the rock in the mythology, and took the place, sacrificed himself for Prometheus, who stood for the hubris of mankind, who thought he could could control nature. And Chiron was the epitome of nature, half horse, the centaur, with the man, so the mind and the heart, the animal instincts, and the trying to harness the animal instincts, and that causing the crucifixion, because it's the material cross of matter fighting against spirit, but then the Chironic healing is integrating spirit with matter. And that was so very much Steve. He had a big fight with that, and that was part of the Capricornian bringing humility in, that you have to not subdue the animal nature, you have to bring nature in with spirit. And I think he made a lot of progress with that. So you know, he completed a journey, I would say. So that was a very great consolation. But it did that did feel like crucifixion. And there was my sun, you know, squaring. And then my Venus at 0 degrees Libra, as I was saying, which actually is being squared by the solstice sun and by Mercury, retrograde Mercury at the solstice. So amazing. Does anyone want to pick anything up on that? You're very good on that,
Well,
Nia. Yeah.
I'll just say one little thing before Nia jumps in, is that this is Caraclo here, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
And
yeah.
the sun at the galactic center on Caraclo,
yeah, wow.
holding space.
Yes,
That's
wonderful.
what Caraclo does is hold space. So it's like the universe was holding space, you know, for this.
Wonderful. Yeah, the galactic center,
event.
that is powerful. And Caraclo is, of course, the
Like
centaur.
holding space for the journey, right, Sue?
Yeah.
She's the wife of Chiron, isn't she?
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wonderful. So that's the feminine aspect of the,
Of the healing.
But you
Yeah.
know what, Michaela, that can reflect you right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because even what you said was, I wanted to fight. Like, you know, me, I wanted to fight, which also is really indicative of this Capricorn, you know? But
yes.
here's the thing is that you did hold space
Oh.
as this person was transitioning, as your partner was transitioning. You were also learning, I think it's kind of poetic that this is in the 12th house. So it's a lesson in you surrendering as well.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good, that's very helpful observation. Yes, exactly. Surrendering. And maybe that's what the vision of the crucifixion was and Chiron saying, no, you have to surrender to integrate the wound. And look at my shadow. It made me think about my shadow wanting always to, you know, perfection, really. Pluto in Virgo sort of square my Mars in Gemini. Always wanting to fight to get it right, to get perfection, and not able to surrender with that. And yet I have Pisces ascendant. So thank you. That's very good. And my Saturn is conjunct at 20 degrees.
It's almost that it's you were saying that your partner's death, like, you know, it took him to his knees, but it's also, that's part of your crucifixion, is it's taking you to your knees in order for you to learn surrender. So
Absolutely.
while you hold space. So I just wanted to say that for what it's worth.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. That's what it felt like. And yeah. Yes. Very, very good.
And the moon was almost exactly conjunct Chiron as well.
In a grand trine with the sun in the south node, natal sun in the south node.
Yes, grand,
So
yeah.
what I picked up on is that transiting Mars went over a couple of days back over the natal sun. Always a time of accidents.
Oh God, yeah.
True.
We could see the sun coming up on the horizon and Mercury in retro, exactly on the ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see this grand square. It's not an exact grand square, but we can see it throughout the whole period, Pluto in the 29th degree of Capricorn, across from natal moon, one of the signifiers of life.
Yes, yes.
Squaring Saturn. And in a sense, you know, you could say that Jupiter in transit is still in orb, creating this grand square.
Yes.
And we can see this grand trine with the south node, the natal sun, and the transiting moon.
Opposite.
Yeah,
moon.
and you remember we talked about opposition between Venus and Jupiter. It's present here as well, you know, transiting Venus is opposing natal Jupiter.
Yeah.
And fourth. Yeah.
I mean, his sun to 13 Sag was directly opposite my moon at 13 Gemini. So that was always, and in fact, that's Is that an asteroid? Yeah, that's because I'm not very big on asteroids. Is that an asteroid? That's Bacchus Dionysus, isn't it? Next, conjunct his sun. They're the sort of Y thing. 15 degrees Sag. Well, I have the same Bacchus Dionysus at 14 degrees conjunct my moon, I think. Is it? No, it's Sag. No, it's in Sag. So it's opposite my moon, as his sun is opposite my moon. So if he gets always if he has a transition to his sun, I get it to my moon and vice versa. So I'm getting that, what you just said. Yeah, I got the Mars then to opposite my moon. So in opposition, and there I was fighting. And Mars now at his death, 19 Sag conjunct my Saturn.
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. If the fight is, the end of the fight as it becomes exact.
That
but-
also to me represents a strong woman.
Oh, thank you.
Like a Mars combo with either the moon or Saturn, sometimes depending on how a woman is. Like, so as that's, transiting your own natal Saturn, to me that represents like a strong woman.
Right. Oh, thank you. Well, I have Mars moon conjunction anyway in Gemini. Mars
There
is
you go.
Yes. Good. Yeah, moon's at 13, as I just said, and Mars is at 3, Gemini. So yes, I mean, my mother had the same thing. She had moon, Mars in Gemini. As in fact, Erin said in her family, she's got this great. She did this family
dynamics.
Yeah. So, God, it's amazing, isn't it? So thank you. Yes, that's great.
So I also did this chart with the same asteroids that we didn't really talk about the asteroids, but this just shows the Mercury down here at the bottom of the transit chart. I mean, definitely setting out on a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
The final journey in, this physical life, but, beginning a new one.
Yes, exactly. What other asteroids are there? Oh yeah, it's got a lot going on.
Oh yeah, these were the other ones that she talked about. The 3 that were the fates, Clothos, Lachesis, and Atropo were the 3 fates. The Clothos was the spinner of the fate, Lachesis was the weaver, and Atropo was the cutter. And then Mora is the fate.
Yeah.
And so they are all.
Yes, look at that. So that is that Mnemosine again.
Mnemosine.
No, Mnemosine, is it? Yeah, how do you say it?
Mnemosine.
Anyway, memory, you were
Memory,
saying.
yeah, right, exactly.
The goddess of memory. Yeah, and that's at 13 degrees Virgo, so that's squaring both our suns and moons. In fact, it's dead in the center T-square.
So what she talked about in that video was that drinking of the water of, not to drink of the water of forgetfulness in order to remember this lifetime, bringing it into the next, and to drink of mnemosine.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say.
That's wonderful. Yeah, as I was saying to you too, they've just discovered a statue of that goddess Mnemosine, actually Roman statue, but it's Greek, the goddess, isn't it? But that's dating from the end of the age of Aries, so just before the age of Pisces. So, and that's telling them quite a lot about the Roman Empire as well, and everything, which we're sort of seeing the final crumbling of now. The inheritors of the world, Roman Empire, which is Europe and America, of course. Interesting. But yes, memory, wonderful. That's great.
Yeah, and rising. So
Yes, of course. Of course.
important in the chart.
Yeah, that's right.
So shall
Wonderful.
we?
Yes, let's press on. But thank you for that. That's really,
Absolutely.
yeah, very good.
So
Right. So
segue.
so on the 30th of December, that's the date of the, I don't know if we've got the chart for that, for the Jupiter stationary direct on 30th of December.
I
days
don't,
from
but the
matter
I
anyway.
mean,
No,
these are close.
yeah. So
Um,
sure. It goes direct at 5 degrees anyway, doesn't it? 5 degrees Taurus.
525, I
less.
think it is, and I mean it may be.
Yeah.
It's
So that's
5:45 now.
So that's on the anniversary of this chart, which is the last Chiron Pluto conjunction. And actually, I mean, I can't take full credit for that because I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't looked at actually in Melanie's really good book about the centaurs, she talks about Chiron, Nessus, and a few of them, Chariclo as well, and Pholus. And I was looking for Chiron in there, and then I saw, and this was 96. Was from a lecture at the Center for Psychological Astrology, which is where Erin was a teacher as well. And I spent 7 glorious years going to their seminars in Regent's Park. And then I took their 3-year diploma course. And Erin was one of the mentors, and we used to go to her home. And then we went to Melanie's, and we went to Lynn Bell was a teacher as well, and obviously Liz Green. Went to Liz Green's house.
Wow.
She chain smoked the whole way. And I went with one other student who had to go to their house, and we were petrified at the great Liz Green. And she gave us this chart. We were supposed to interpret it, and we were, shaking because, oh God. But she actually interpreted the whole thing for us and didn't let us get a word in. It's great. We were just transfixed. But anyway, so that was that time. And this lecture was one I actually went to, which I didn't realize till I opened the door of the book and thought, because CPA produced a lot of their lectures as books. And I'd been there, and I was one of the audience asking these questions. And I just thought it was another of Melanie's books. But she talked about the Chiron-Pluto conjunction, and she noted that the one in 1941, which we'll show you next, was very pertinent. This is back in 96, remember, to Israel's chart. And she said, I wish I'd got it here, but she said, this is very powerful. And the next Chiron conjunction back then, of course, was in 3 years' time, 1999. And she was saying that it would be interesting to see the development, because obviously that was, as I said to you earlier, that was, and I didn't get that from that, but I got it from this other. He's talking about that Chiron-Pluto conjunction 99 was the Sabian symbol. Oh, the 4th degree of Leo. Okay, so that's what it was. The node was at the 4th degree of Leo, which is, of course, is Israel's moon, which you'll see in the next chart of Chiron conjunct Pluto in 1941.
Would you like for me to move to that one?
Yeah, because you can see the North Node then. And so, the Chiron-Pluto conjunction in 1941. So he gives the Sabian symbol here he says, a man formally dressed stands near trophies he brought back from a hunting expedition. This is from Linda Hill and Richard Hill's book on Sabian symbols. And trophies of conquest, will to prove oneself, need to prove one's animal instincts, Chiron, wow, for the benefit of society. If negative, trying to dominate the elements of nature with rational power. Really interesting. But there she was saying about Chiron being figured with Pluto right there at 4 degrees Leo. And I've put, as I said to you, I've put that Chiron-Pluto conjunction as the seed time of that. It's like a 58-year period before the next one. And Israel's chart on the outside with once Israel came into being in 1948. But this was the start of that. So this laid the groundwork for Israel to be founded just after the Second World War. And this was during the Second World War, of course. And this was when, the Holocaust was sort of coming to light and all of that. And so it was seen as necessary, very necessary. They'd been, the Zionists had been asking for years for a home, for a promised land to be founded, and that started in 1917 and all of that. We looked at that last time with the Balfour Declaration and all of that. And but then it came about really at this time, that it was then put in motion and then came to fruition in 1948. So there it is. There's Pluto, Chiron, Pluto, and the sun, really, the sun too, all conjunct, and Chiron, Pluto on the moon of. So when, in other words, when the moon came round at Israel's foundation, it was conjunct Chiron and Pluto. And there we go in 1999, then the next Chiron conjunction, and that's what Melanie was saying, that it makes you wonder what was going to sort of come to bear there. And actually that was a very important year, because I was saying about oil fields being discovered then off the coast of Israel and Lebanon and Gaza, and then starting the exploration of them then. And they have actually just come to be viable now, and the licenses sold. But Lebanon and Gaza have been sort of cut out of the picture completely. In Britain, America doing the expedition work, BP involved, a big American company. And actually that American company, which is Chevron now, it was called Noble something then in 1999. And that is actually in Texas, which also picks up the last total solar eclipse on April 8th, right across Texas, and where Chevron is. And there you get the oil as well. So it's as though it is all converged in, looking like that all of this, the seed event, and picking up the oil, the gas fields as well, for what has transpired. Because as I was saying earlier, the gas fields mean, and they are extensive, they mean, and they're worth like many, many billions worth of, and they do free Israel, America, and Europe. Europe particularly needs gas now because of the Russian situation. And so it's coming at the time when they then can gain their freedom from the Middle East being able to launch an embargo, which they did in 1973. And that chart isn't there, but that's a good chart too, because that's the last Chiron return of the US chart, when embargo was launched by the Middle Eastern countries and the Suez was closed. And that was the last Chiron return. And that had a big impact on oil prices and the economy and everything. And so Chiron, Pluto again, and sort of all coming together now. And now, they possibly they won't be so affected, Europe and America, from this war that's going on, because now already the Middle Eastern countries are threatening an embargo again at the Chiron return. It's amazing. So there you are. Amazing.
It's interesting. I love that you brought this up, because both of these charts, the Chiron return, Chiron Pluto conjunction charts, one has, like in this one in 1941, it has Neptune on the north node, Neptune relating to oil, like the crude oil. Yes. And if you look at the one from 1999, Neptune's on the south node.
Oh no, really? I didn't notice that. Wow.
Yeah.
Good catch. Wow. Wow.
So, Sue, will you go back to the one from 1999 just so we can see it? See how Neptune's on that south node there, while Pluto's conjunct Chiron again. So it's just restating kind of everything that you're saying, Michaela, is what I'm trying to point out.
My God, exactly opposite. Israel's moon and the 1941 Pluto, Saturn, Pluto, Sun, Chiron conjunction.
Mhm.
Gosh.
So I think you're onto something, is my point.
Hey. And well observed too about Neptune. I hadn't thought of that before, that it's obviously very, and look at it, my God. And
Well,
it,
the only reason why I know this is because my family, my father brought hydraulic fracking to America and Japan, and I have a really prominent Neptune in my chart. So it's something, because I studied EA, it was questions I had revolving around that, because my Neptune's in my 8th house, but it's conjunct my Saturn and Uranus, because I was born in 89. So it's that, year of having that stellium. So
Yeah.
you can see how that's been something that's prominently affected me in this lifetime. So, and Neptune's the ruler of my North Node.
I mean, it shows you how in the individual chart as well, and through family. It's
Yes.
phenomenal.
So inheritance is 8th house through that, right? So it became like a really big
Yes, of
thing for
course.
me. But yeah.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And of course, I mean, the oil fields are called if you look at the gas fields, they're called mythological names, like obviously it's the Levant is the area too, but they're the big Israeli one, although they've taken everything, so is America and Britain. But anyway, the big Israeli one is called the Levanthium. So it's the monster from the deep, Neptunian sort of, wow.
Leviathan.
Leviathan. Sorry, yeah, Leviathan. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's like couldn't be better.
You can't make it up.
You can't. Fantastic.
Apropos to this, I just read yesterday that the US is stockpiling huge amounts of oil. They're drawing huge amounts of oil out of the ground right now. So, it could be just in preparation.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Gosh, which is all that. Yeah, exactly. All that laying the groundwork with all that Scorpio stuff in going into the 8th there with Venus and again, Chiron and Pluto conjunct in the 8th.
And then it's like going back to why is the US so invested in making their choices that they are right now. So
and that's right on, the US chart, Sibley chart ascendant, of course.
It is.
Oh my God. We've got you, all of you. Our country's great.
I butt in a second here.
We the people
Absolutely.
yeah.
I full disclosure here. I drive a car, and and these lights, so we are, and everybody knows it, everything in this world runs on oil.
Yes.
I would love to project on this upcoming Jupiter-Uranus conjunction a big change out of an oil-based universe, world, everything.
Dependency.
Yeah.
Well, and during the Sagittarius new moon, that's when they had the oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart, sorry. When they were, all of the countries were meeting together to talk about
the climate.
Thank you. Yes. So, and that was literally happening during the new moon, this past new moon. So hopefully, Ryan, you might be onto something as well. Like, I hope that projection's right.
Yeah, blow it all out of the water, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Well, and here's at the risk of projecting fear, here's something.
We're already there. Just go with it.
Here's something that we love to ask with these outer planets, and like Pluto and Uranus, is how bad does it have to get before we humans get it through our thick heads that we need to make some appropriate changes for our long-term happiness and sustainability?
I've been talking about this because if you look at the charts, like Pluto right now has been squaring that nodal axis, and that's why I was like, oh my gosh, it takes extremes to counteract extremes. How extreme does it have to get with that South Node in Libra? And then as soon as the nodes change to, you know, Virgo, Pisces, what crisis is going to happen because we've ignored?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what are we gonna do? Totally pollute the Mediterranean by this Leviathan of, okay, so
Monster, yeah.
again, not to project fear and not to be like,
No,
okay,
no,
we
but
gotta have it
that's
get
what we're here
bad,
for,
we
to
can
talk
make
it out.
changes. But and you know, what things can we do? I mean, I know I can do a few things individually, personally. I know that I've got some personal things, like a secret book coming out next spring. You know, I've got my little things that I can do personally on this, but I'm not going to be able to snap my fingers and change the world. But I'm wondering what we can collectively do.
But that is Pluto in
Noting,
Aquarius, collective power.
Mhm.
Yeah, or each individual that tries to unified with other individuals with the help of the internet, of course.
Well,
I
and
think-
also to Jordyn's point, when the nodes move into Pisces and Virgo, I believe Neptune will be conjunct the North Node.
Yep. And
Right.
it's interesting because even this coming year, as Pluto enters into Aquarius, it's going to be ruled by this Uranus and Taurus, which is about our collective values, like, and the radical alteration of those. So it's like, it can also be about radicalism, as we know, but like it'll be interesting to see on a collective level what we do. Like if we're all just tired of the BS, you know, right
Definitely.
now, I mean, it's wild to me that it's ignored, you know. So.
And now they're actually all starting fighting over the oil. And yet, on the other hand, saying that they're phasing it out. But hey, they're going to, you know, ignite World War III to get it. Something's
well, welcome to Pluto.
gelling there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last stand of, and it hasn't finished yet, has it? Obviously, at the end of the year, it's going to sort of be back in Capricorn, but only briefly, right?
Yeah, but if we imagine the dragon swallowing its own tail,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
kind of the thought that comes to me. You know, here's the powers that be and the old ways of doing it, and the old structures, and the old guard, and the old regime, and it is antiquated. And as we can see, it's gobbling up. You know, this beast is gobbling
But
up
then
the
it
last of the resources and the
now,
last of the
isn't it?
oil fields and the last.
Yeah. It's like the
And
red
the-
dragon.
The
Yeah.
last
as it
gasp
knows
of
it's
the
trying.
last gasp of the last degree of Pluto and
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Amazing, isn't it?
It's really Marxist. That's what it is. It's capitalism devouring its own self. It's
Yeah.
Marxism, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But
Something
it's-
to
I think
change.
we can't afford to wait for that to happen, you know.
No,
We
but
can't
I mean,
afford to wait
they will
to
keep
cut
doing
the
that.
track
Well,
we're sitting on.
no, but we're not. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like you say, Pluto's going into Aquarius. So we have had it, you know, we've had the bullshit. And now they're really showing their cards. So there's the shadow is showing, like we were saying before, World War II, when Pluto was in Leo. Now we've got the mirror image of it, the opposition. And that's saying, you know, people take your power, because if we don't take our power, we can see now what we're in for. And we're also in for, I think we're talking about, you know, the danger of cyberspace and wars and all of that stuff, and ideologies, again, like fascism coming up, and like you were just saying, neo-Marxism.
Oh,
God
that's
knows.
totally my state I live in.
So if we consider the Pluto in Capricorn, or Pluto in Leo, excuse me, generation, the last of the great
Last guard,
kings
the old
of
guard.
old, the last, you know, the last of the great kings of old. I believe that
Crusaders.
I can project that the Pluto in Aquarius generations will be the last of the great revolutionaries of old being reborn.
Not the last, hopefully the new revolutionaries.
So please, please. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Brilliant. Yeah, great take on that. Yeah. So Yes, interesting, isn't it? It's all sort of there. And interesting, the next, I mean, Saturn there before at 10 degrees Taurus. I mean, the next square, Chiron Pluto square, is going to be in 2028, and that will be at 7 degrees Taurus. So Saturn's return, in other words. Interesting. So maybe this period is sort of bookended by that, you know, it's at 2028, there's going to be some revolution. Have to look at that next time. Resolution.
To me, that's like a crisis aspect, though, like of what do you believe and how is it affecting the structures of society stemming from the values and the destruction of, you know, natural resources. Like if I could put that just into a nutshell.
Yeah, so 4 years of this tug of war, I guess, but there you go. What do you expect? It's a big, you know, it's a big tug. But we've got Pluto on our side. So, hey, right?
Yep, it wants to blow it to smithereens.
Yeah. Get that lever up. What is it? Levanthian. What's the monster called again?
Leviathan.
Leviathan. I always get it wrong. Yeah. Leviathan.
Is it pronounced differently in Britain? It could be.
What's that?
Is it pronounced differently in
no,
Britain?
it's because I got confused because it's Levant, you know, which is this, that's where it comes from originally. So, but Leviathan, yeah. Of course, Jung wrote about that as the monster from the deep. Yeah, exactly. So, hey, that's what we've got, the monster.
It's
but then
the Hebrew word for a whale, Leviathan.
Yes, of course.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
of course. Yeah, in the belly of the whale. Wow, that's good. Yeah, fantastic.
So do we have other charts?
What did we have? We were going to show the 9/11 one briefly.
Yeah.
Well,
Ooh.
yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that Neptune conjunct that?
Oh, not again.
Well, no, but isn't that Neptune?
Is it? Where is it?
Yes.
Yeah, conjunct that. Well, that makes sense because this is 2001 and that was in 1999. That last, I mean, it's not on the note, but it's still
a couple of years. Yeah, exactly.
It's bringing in the energy of that from that 1999 Pluto Chiron conjunction.
Oh, what I was thinking of isn't that the Sibley node?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So.
Ugh. And I think
and Mercury is conjunct, and so Saturn's, you know, it's the Saturn of the Sibley chart, isn't it? The American Sibley chart, USA Sibley chart is at 14 degrees Libra. So that Mercury and ascendant is Saturn rising in that chart, as we know, obviously, because then it was a big deal. Yeah. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, they went after, with the war on terror, they went after Iraq first, which makes you think there was an oil sort of connection there, because that was used as an excuse, wasn't it, for the to pick on to get, well, it was George Bush, wasn't it? George W. Bush, who was avenging his father. But it wasn't just about that, about the oil with the Iraq war of the Gulf War of 1991. So the first they went for with the war on terror in 2003 was the Iraq. Yeah, exactly. Which was about the oil, really. I mean, it's all about oil. It's all about resources, isn't it? Which is power.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, and it's about hoarding the resources, you know, especially right now with like all the tourist stuff going on, even going back to like what you were saying, like, was it you or Lynn? I can't remember, about stockpiling the oil here, you know, right now in America.
Yeah, it was me. I just read that yesterday.
Yeah, so that's like on
the oil, like big time, bigger than we normally do.
Well, and something that people aren't talking about either, which I feel like is very Neptunian in the regard of like natural resources, is like the places that are going to the ocean and like, you know, trying to dig up the minerals and stuff out. Like no one's talking about this really. And it's like, what's that gonna do to us? You know? I mean, I'm a Pluto and Scorpio generation. My Pluto's in the 6th, so I always
Great.
want to talk about this stuff, you know, but with Taurus rising, so I'm like, ah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
But-
But that's what's necessary to get a hold of all of this. You have to be able to take an interest in what is actually happening, because
Can
it's
I
no
share
good
something?
running around
Yeah.
saying save the planet. There has to be some practical implementation of it.
Well, it's
So
just like, it makes me
within-
so mad. No one is talking about this at all. Like,
Mm.
thank God for the Greta Thunbergs of the world, you know, but like, it's like, how old is she? Like, it was a child that came in to start speaking this, you know, outwardly, because adults didn't care about it. So it just makes me angry. But
She was
what were you gonna
born,
say, Nia?
she was born in 2003, wasn't she?
Mhm. Yeah, but when she started doing what she, like her taking a stance, she was like,
13 or something?
yeah, and I mean,
12?
what a little, you know, a rebel, like for a cause, like a good cause.
And supported by her parents in being able to do that, which I think is
Absolutely.
also very important. Can I just throw something in here that I find fascinating and I use as a really good example about how people manifest their charts? She and Kyle Rittenhouse, if anybody remembers him, shooting going, he was 18, 17,
Mhm.
18, going to Kenosha, Wisconsin when there were, you know, riots and protests there and shooting people. And he's born the same day as
Wow.
Greta Thunberg.
Yep. It's
Nice.
There you go.
Can I throw something in?
Yeah.
yes.
Can I merge 9/11 with death charts a minute?
Sure.
Did that sound enthusiastic? Yes.
From I talk about death charts,
Mm,
I found out that many times the nodes either return
Mhm.
or stand in opposition.
mhm.
They're
Mhm.
both exit points.
Mhm.
And I took the natal chart of the World Trade Center as the unveiling of the plans for the building and the, you know, press conference they had back in January 18, 1964. Well, Neptune isn't on the nodes here, but the nodes are in the 12th house, which is a Neptunian house. It's the World Trade Mercury Center.
Hmm.
Indeed, we find in the 8th house, opposing the natal moon in the 2nd,
Oh my.
Mm.
Pluto and Uranus, death from the skies,
Wow.
opposing natal natal moon. And when we look at 2001, September 11,
Oh,
we can
yeah.
see that something marvelous has happened when we put the two together. Look at the nodes. Look at Jupiter, transiting Jupiter,
Mm, wow.
the same degree. Look at the transiting Sun going over that natal Pluto.
Oh.
Yeah, very graphic.
Mhm.
Very graphic. And this is, I mean, I've cherry picked some amazing examples
Mm.
of these things. This is Shimon Peres. We can see the nodes return at death.
Gosh.
This
Mm.
is JFK. We can see the nodes in reverse.
Wow.
Mm. Wow.
I believe that when they're reversed, this is a time of unfinished business and an ending of a cycle in the midst of it, if you will, an evolutionary cycle in the midst of it, or evolutionary work in the midst of it.
That's interesting, isn't it?
And
I mean,
and when the nodes return, the evolutionary cycle that person's soul was working on is in a sense in completion.
wow.
Yeah. So,
There's
and
something here. You might want to look that up.
That just makes me think of my one of my childs. I had him during my nodal return, and I'm like, oh Lord. And it was my dad's too. It's so fascinating. So you said something that kind of I'm gonna keep in my little, you know,
this is Adolf
scribbly brain
Hitler.
up here.
File cabinet.
Yeah.
But it all tells a story, doesn't it? It all gives it away. It's like you can
All
follow
tells a
follow the
story.
astrology and you can see the truth come out.
This
What
is
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln.
they've all
It's
been
like the
up to.
past occurring in the present in the
Yeah.
present moment, you
Yeah,
know,
it's been going on for a very long
to
time.
be confronted. Like, what are you gonna do here? You know,
Yeah.
what new choice?
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's the same degrees again of the.
That's
Mm.
Lincoln's natal chart and death chart.
Oh,
Yeah,
huh.
nodes returning.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
John Wilkes Booth didn't happen. They're more reversed.
Sus.
Adolf Hitler returned.
Gosh.
JFK opposed. Shimon Peres
Pressing
returned.
the collective, aren't
Yeah.
they? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Well, that's what
Yeah,
happened.
you just had this in your back pocket. Thanks.
Yeah, very good.
I was like, oh my gosh, a whole presentation.
Excellent.
Oh,
I mean,
But it
this
was
is just-
great. Like I'm like really, really appreciative of it. But I was kind of blown away. I was like, what?
I know. Fantastic.
because we were talking
That's
about
great.
death charts, and then you brought up 9/11, and I said, okay, so
No, no, fantastic.
So
But it just
I
it all
have
comes
I have a
together.
little addition. My heart dog was born 3 days after 9/11, the
Oh.
9/11. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and so I felt like he was like the reincarnation of maybe some of the dogs that
Oh,
died in the, you know,
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Totally.
doing what they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Were they rescue dogs or something?
yeah,
rescue-
they had dogs
Okay.
that they
Yeah,
took
of course
in.
they did. Of
Yeah,
course they did.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ryan, like you, I have a book in my head
But it's great. It all
about
sort
that.
of
But yeah, but I mean, that to me, that's the, you know, the what came out of even if he wasn't the reincarnation of any you know, of you know, a person
Well, if that
died
thought
in it
came
or whatever, he was born of that time.
at that time. Yeah.
And he was just the most gentle, sweetest soul, and the connections with my chart were just incredible.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
wonderful.
yeah.
So
It's
did we
amazing.
have anything else we wanted to talk about, or have we about? I think we
Yeah.
might have run our course since
We've covered a lot, but very, very productive. I mean, and yes, of course, there's a lot frightening, but there's also very powerful showing the evolution of it all and how it's now becoming all so apparent. It's coming together now, so you can see the mechanisms of of the patriarchal Capricorn Pluto behind the scenes.
Well, we're supposed to be coming into the age of women as well, which I think we're looking at. You know, you can see it happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what'll
So,
be interesting is I think about this because I have a almost 15-year-old who's a Pluto in Cap, and then I have, you know, my son, but it makes me think of as they become adults, which will be in the Pluto Aquarius, you know, time period. It's like, how is that there could be natural leaders who totally step outside of the status quo that are coming from that generation? And it makes me excited because I think of like my child's non-binary, and like I think of this as someone who's totally shattering the patriarchal, you know,
Oh, yeah.
viewpoints and values on what gender is. But it's like, to me, that's a natural leader, that's a natural role model. So it's like, how is that going to manifest during this time period as these kiddos grow up into adulthood? Like, what are they going to? It also makes me think of that and the women who run with wolves, the story where it's like standing on, you get to choose the ancestors' shoulders you want to stand on to continue to climb and to help, you know, humanity and society. And I feel like a lot of these Pluto and Capricorn kiddos during this time period are going to definitely do something that can help.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I get a lot of criticism from people who are, not so positive about the future. And I'm saying that I am so happy to see some of the young people that are making their marks early. And I am so happy to turn the reins of power over to them, because I see them as making a better world. So I'm really positive about a lot of the young people coming into power. I can't wait till they take
And
over.
think about that. Pluto and Capricorn, a lot of these kiddos can be, and I'm not saying all of them, I don't want to generalize it, but it's like a lot of them could be, that to me speaks to an old soul. Like these could be old souls who have a lot of wisdom around what natural societies look like and how to bring that in as a way to step outside of the patriarchal, shadows.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
A lot
that's
of
just
equality coming in from their age group. Yeah, I get very excited talking about it. And I have some friends who are like, you're crazy. Those people aren't going to do anything. I'm like, yes, they are. They're
I
gonna
live with
do
them,
it.
and I'm telling
I'm
you.
so glad. Thank you.
Like-
Thank you. I'm going to go have a drink and celebrate now. No, kidding.
So
But it's true, isn't it? I mean, that is the way of the future. I mean, Pluto in Aquarius. So that's why, although it seems dire at the moment, that it's out, it's going, the empire is crumbling. It's on the way out.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, although it's going to take a bit of a
And
fight.
I don't think we get to see very much of that in our media, because they focus on, what we see are the people who are watching the Kardashians and have no concept of society and real community and helping one another. But there is that whole other side going on that doesn't get the attention it deserves and needs. But I think that will change too, because there are a lot of older people, myself being one of them, who are paying attention to the newer generation and are recognizing they are out there. They're just not getting the attention. Sorry, I don't know what happened to my voice. Yeah, so yay.
I'd
But
like to
joining,
throw a
like you
note
see all
in.
these protests over the world, the communities now really, they're seeing they really have to fight back.
Yeah.
Absolutely peacefully fighting, but the more join the throng, then the more chance there is of pushing it all over. And it will be, they're defeating themselves by this aggressive attitude all over Europe is really showing itself up. America is, Israel is, and they're showing they are the old empire, and people are starting to strike back. That's
Yes,
Ryan, what were you gonna say?
quietly, but
Right.
unfortunately, good news isn't sensational.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so it doesn't get the news cycles that, that.
Right. The news is all about the negativity in the world rather than telling you all the great stuff that's actually happening as well.
That's true.
It wouldn't be news if because most of the time things are pretty good and people are pretty nice to each other. And that's the news is news because it's not the norm. And yet, because it's there every day, we start to think it is the norm, which,
Normalizing.
the only problem is it could be the norm if it spreads.
Wait 1 second. Ryan, what were you gonna say like 5 minutes ago?
Ryan,
'Cause
yeah.
he's been trying to jump in and I'm like, oh.
Thanks for that, Jordyn.
Too many Geminis.
I'd like to
Yeah.
throw a note of applause, preemptive applause, to the generation of my eldest son, the Indigo children, those who were born at the Uranus-Neptune conjunction in Aquarius. Now here comes Pluto, power. And when I consider the Neptune-Uranus conjunction in Aquarius, what we have is science and spirituality, and they're merging. And then here comes Pluto. And so just to project a little positivity into the future, I could imagine that someone from this generation who's now coming into their Saturn return or has just passed it, to have some of these brilliant, revolutionary, magical downloads of what the next level is about to be, is about. And so my hope is is that this generation, what, 28 to 34 years old right now, I'm just ballparking it, that there's some magic in there. And what we're seeing now, even with astrology, is we're seeing, oh, astrology is this spiritual stuff, Neptune. Oh, yes, but it's also this scientific stuff. And what we're doing here with this astrology stuff is we're observing on a quantum level the holographic nature of the universe and how the solar system, etc., is just a fractal representation of processes within us. And therefore, we've got this awakening into our co-creative ability to blend with these archetypes, thus hopefully eliciting the best of all possible outcomes. So therefore, I am projecting a lot of hope into the future with an awareness that shadows have to fully
the shadows
process. There is
yeah.
and this is a Ryan coined term. It's actually the title of his book on Pluto, A Necessary Endarkenment, where we have to come to an incredibly complete awareness of all of the darkness and all of the shadow in order for us to transform it.
It is my favorite planet, by the way.
Yes, and my hope is that we come to this realization sooner than later so that the breakthroughs can occur. That's all.
Excellent. No, that's excellent. Because that's what it is. We have to become aware. What does it take? It has to get extreme. The shadow gets darker and darker and bigger for us to be really aware of what needs to be tackled here. And it is a big feat. But then, as you say, we're in the know that we have everything on our side. And really, it's an outcome that we know is guaranteed to defeat the monster, the Leviathan. Yes.
Eventually, it will always.
But we need to go through the process. We can't just know, oh, we're going to defeat it and do nothing. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But it's in the back, really.
Yeah.
Great. Anyway, wonderful. I
I'm
think
glad we ended on a very positive note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. And thank you all
for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That's helped my
Marty?
grief process. Thank you.
Yeah, like I say, if you need any support, Michaela, honestly, I'm not saying that in an idle manner.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Me too,
Marty
Michaela.
raised
If you
her
ever
hand.
want to
Oh,
look
thank
at
you.
charts together, whatever,
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Nina. That's brilliant.
What was Marty gonna say? Did you raise your hand, Marty?
If you had time for another chart, I really don't want to butt in.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah. No, you're good. Well,
Hi.
I mean, Sue, do you care? Anyone?
No.
I would need to share a chart.
Let me give you a co-host.
I hope I'm not being rude when I'm like, someone's trying to talk.
Oh, no.
No.
It's got to be like my Libra moon
noticed.
trying to be like diplomatic, like, hey.
No, you're on the board.
Okay.
There you go, Marty. You should be able to share now.
When does Neptune ingress to Aries? Is it 2027?
27, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Put a pin in that because things are going to roll. You guys are incredible. You're all so incredible. So let me try to share this one chart. See how it goes. I'm going to be as quick as I can. So excuse me.
No worries.
I need to get two charts up here and bear with me just a moment.
By the way, Marty, nice to meet you. Kristen's like talked to me about you.
Legend. Oh, gosh.
That
It's cut off.
see it at
There we
all?
go.
Oh, it is cut off. Okay, let me try to make it smaller. How do I do that?
You've got up at the top, you have the little magnifying glasses. You can do the one with the minus in it, I think.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
right at the top.
let's just try it this much. Okay, can you see that at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the Battle of Shiloh in the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, the date is 1862.
Mhm.
And this is something I'm working on, so I just thought I'd show it to you so that you have it to look at, and
Oh,
you
look
can
at this.
go back and look at the chart. But is anyone else obsessed with the Civil War as I am?
I'm paying more attention to it now than I ever have before. And I did see this chart recently, and I thought, oh, very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I'll try to be as quickly as I can. And as you all know, I'm very verbose and I'm not very quick, but I'll try. And then you can just say that enough. But the thing of it is, when I dream about something, I know to look at the chart. And this is 1862. And this was one of the really the definitive battle of the war. This is where the war started to turn to
Mhm.
the Union Army starting to, quote, win the war or overtake the war.
Yeah. Wow.
And as all of you remember, we all saw the U.S. Pluto return about 3.5 years ago. And what I love to do is play with people's brains, because do you remember seeing that and then it went viral as an astrologer? Do you
Mhm.
remember seeing Pluto's return in the U.S. chart and
Mhm.
everybody remarking about it? I remember myself. And then before you know it, it's viral. Everybody's seen it. But we astrologers, we tend to see things first and in private a lot of the time. So anyway, look at Neptune here. This is the inner chart. This is Neptune on, again, I'm going to show you April 7th of 1862. And it's in the first degree Aries. Do you think that something that has been hidden for a very long time is in the works, about to be discovered and exposed?
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. And then this is where it is now. So this is December 21st, 2023. So Neptune is at a culminating degree of Pisces.
Mhm.
Again, do you think something's in the works, something new? Neptune, how we dream, how we absorb, how we really know everything. Neptune is everything. And it's really knowing what you know and really getting it really, really deep and,
Yeah.
getting it
That's
as well as you can in the depths of your soul. So something is emerging out of this battle to a reality, and a new reality for us, and a new something that we're going to dream about before we can really understand it. A new absorption of knowledge into the very soul, new creatures, so to speak.
wow.
So there's that, and if you just look at that, this is a time when the Emancipation Proclamation came out around the time of this battle. And as horrible and dreadful as the Civil War is, it is fascinating to study, because we so much liken those times now.
Yeah.
Think of the division we're in right now, and
Yeah.
think of, back then it was North and South, so to speak. But think of the vestiges that we have now and the mindsets and what we're still dealing with. And it said that around 1862, when the Emancipation Proclamation came out from Lincoln, that it took about 3 years to implement. And if you realize as well that we are now dealing with the 14th Amendment and our former President Trump, and the 1868 14th Amendment that defined insurrectionists
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's brilliant.
succession.
Yeah.
And that amendment was was implemented in 1868 to avoid insurrectionists or successionists or Confederates from holding office.
Right.
So just think of how everything goes full circle.
Mhm.
And are we starting to rewrite the laws of the Constitution, Neptune in Aries? So next chart, I'll get to the next chart here. Bear with me just a moment. So sorry, I'm so slow. Let me try to get this up here for you.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
So this is darn it, is this the right one? Oh, this is the wrong one again. I'm sorry. I'll try it again.
Well, that looked like the Neptune return of.
Trying to get the right one, folks. I'm not too good at this. Yeah, it was a Neptune return, but I'm trying to get it up so I can't see it very well. Oh, here we go. So do you all see this one?
Hey, Marty, right above your, wait, with your mouse, go to the left. In the middle of the top bar, there's a magnifying glass next to the eye.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
to
that
make
makes it
bigger,
bigger. You want the
that's
other
to
one.
make it smaller. There you go.
Thank you, my dear. You guys are incredible. So this is 2026, okay? And
Mhm.
you have a Neptune return.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes about 3 years for the Emancipation Proclamation to really take effect and really be effective and really have the slaves be freed. But now look at this in 2026, we have a Neptune return, and it's going to bring about something new as well. And I do believe the Constitution is going to be amended.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
What do you
number
think that
one.
amendment's going to be about? Do you have an idea?
I'll leave that up to
Okay.
you, but I do believe it's going to have a lot to do with the 14th Amendment and the definition of insurrection.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I'll leave
And
that up
that's
to
in
you.
the 9th house, man.
Mhm,
So the court system, you know?
mhm.
I'll leave that up to you. So let me just go through my notes real quickly here. But definitely we're looking at, with Neptune return, we're looking at a completion of a dissolution of old structures, which began with the Pluto return to the U.S. chart in 2019, I believe, the beginning of that. And so now we have a completion of the dissolution of old structures and actual, not a new constitution, but an amended constitution. And that's what I've been waiting for.
Excellent.
This is fascinating because that south node is conjunct Jupiter in the second, and that Mars in Virgo is the ruler of these Neptunes that transiting Mars. So it's like,
Jordyn.
What?
It repeats and repeats and repeats.
Yes.
You'll always find a main theme will do that.
Yeah.
And also if you look at Saturn, where is it? Saturn will be in Aries in 2026. And right now, what is it? 2 degrees Pisces.
Yes.
And it's if you just look at it, it's 2 degrees Pisces, and it's approaching. It's culminating to Neptune right now, and then when Neptune is in Aries in it's starting to enter Aries in 2026 and 2027. This is the December of 2026. So call it, the end of 2026, the beginning of 2027. This is going to be the renewal of the dissolution of old structures. What I see this as in 2026 is really a completion or a concretization of what started in 2019 with the U.S. Pluto return, where things are really going to change, where we won't be in the dilemma, so much of the dilemma, not only, the Middle East and Ukraine, but so much of a dilemma with the U.S. and what does our Constitution really say, and how can we keep, I'm trying to put a sock in it. How can we keep, how can we have fair elections? Let me put it that way.
Well, and look at
got out of hand, doesn't it? Everywhere.
Look at Pluto. Will have gone over the Mars there too. In the
Marty, have you looked at?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Sue. That's exactly right here. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. There it is again.
Have you looked at? I don't know. I remember asking on the message board, if Rad knew who Trump was in a prior lifetime, and he told me that it was Odoacer, and that was really fascinating to me to look up the history of that, because it's, for whatever it's worth, if someone wants to know, just look up the history, and then I think pairing it with what you're talking about gives it a more complete picture,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's all in the pipeline. Great. Because so much reform needs to happen. It's just,
but the one
democracy is going down the drain.
The one thing I would say is listen to your dreams and then look at the chart, because it's one thing to look at a chart and try to figure it out, but if you let your dreams guide you, it'll take you right to the chart, and then you can, disseminate the chart. That's how I do it.
Well,
I love backwards, but it'll tell you an awful lot. And
yeah,
Neptune is a dream prompt, so Let's hope that our country is making strides and will make new strides and amend the Constitution to a great degree so that we can never be in a situation. I mean, if you think about, I'm going to go ahead and say it. If you think about Trump winning the election, to me, that's, I don't have the words, and I'm trying not to say anything, but what does that teach our children?
Mhm.
And if we haven't learned anything,
We're nuts.
you know, in the past, how many years since the Civil War? How many years has that been? Well, it's been over 150 years. And if we've learned anything, we need to amend the Constitution, and we need to teach our children what's right from wrong.
I agree.
So you can get some other runners, because there's some very good runners in the background, from what I can see for the election, but they don't get a look in because the corporations sort of rule everything, you know.
We're
It's
back
all-
to the media.
Yeah, it's all corrupt. It's everywhere. It's not just, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much of the media connected to Trump's ability to do all of in the first place. You know, because he had so much exposure, he became a household name.
Well, and
People went with it.
we're being taught that cheating, you can cheat to win, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's so apparent, like we were saying before. It's so obvious. It's in our faces. So, and it's time to do something about
And
it.
there are people who are not seeing it that way.
Yep.
I
No,
know.
but
Significant number.
against it.
Marty, I might message you about this because I want to pick your brain. You know,
There-
if you don't mind, because I would.
Not
I
at
don't.
all. And
Thank
also,
you,
I'll show
Nia.
you one more chart.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I need to
Nia.
leave because
Sleep
I'm
well. It's very
tired.
late for you, isn't
Thank
it?
you, Nia.
Or very early.
It's been amazing as always being with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you could
Great,
join
thank
us.
you.
Me
Get
too.
some sleep. Stay
Stay
safe.
safe.
Good seeing all of you and
Jinx.
Michaela. Sending
Thank
you a
you.
lot of warmth and a lot of
Well,
strength.
thank you so much, Nina. Yeah, and I will pick your brains too.
Love that.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, this is Jesus chart, March 1st, 0007 BC.
Every
And-
time I try to get this chart, it will not work.
Okay, there it is. There it is.
Hold on, hold on.
Oh, wow. So
And
yes,
well,
Jupiter opposing his Neptune.
yeah,
Right now.
and as soon as Jordyn has it, I'll move the chart.
I
up.
got it.
Okay.
Thank you, Marty.
You're welcome. So we were looking, and I'm just going to toss this out, and then I'll be done. But remember, we were looking at Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here in approximately 0007 BC, the planetary north node of Neptune was in Cancer. And you can think of the Virgin Mary, you can think of, you know, her time and her message and everything that's come from that during that time. Well, roughly, let me see if I've got my roughly around, bear with me a moment. Look at my 1150 AD, the planetary north node of Neptune transitioned to Leo. And I'll say that again, roughly 1150 AD, the planetary north node of Neptune transitioned to Leo, where we are now. And the planetary north node of Neptune is in a sign for roughly 1500 years. In this case, it's about 1600 and plus years, but call it 1500 years. So it's going to be there from 1150 AD to 3700 AD. So we're all here with our planetary north node of Neptune in Leo. And if you kind of look at the translation from the mother, the virgin, everything to do with Virgo, to Leo, the heart, you know, coming from the heart and thinking from the heart collectively and being responsible for children. And then the transition to Virgo, to me, what this huge planetary galactic ingression speaks to is the conservation of the earth.
Mm.
And what this all comes down to, everything that in my life that I've learned up to this point is all about loving the earth and conservation, because if the mother ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So
It's true.
this is what we're learning, the divine mother, the divine earth. And as you all know, we're in a Virgo sub-age of the last degree of the age of Pisces right now. So we're all learning the mother's message. And
Wonderful.
I'm gonna say this because I'm incredibly outspoken.
Good.
I need to bring a sock, I tell you. But
No, do it.
when
Go
the
for it.
Nazarene came to Earth, and I saw this in a very Neptunian group meditation, I realized that the Earth needed him as much as he needed the Earth.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to kind of leave it at that.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much, Marty.
Thanks for joining
Yeah.
us finally,
Yes.
Marty.
That's
I
great.
really, really appreciated that.
I appreciate all of you. You're just incredible.
Well,
Thank
you
you.
are. I have to jump in there sooner next time. And
Yes.
yeah.
But I
great.
think there's hope for the world. And, there's tragedy now, but I do see the seeds of new
Hope.
creation. I really
Yeah.
do.
Definitely.
Yay. Let's go. Let's make it happen.
Yes, and on that positive note, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
It was an awesome conversation, and we will see you next.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Oh, yes.
Happy holiday, everyone.
Peace.
Okay.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.